All right, Evan, it's time for the top five. Top five. Now, we talked about this. It's the top five cards that we don't play as much as we used to. So I'm going to start here, Evan. My number five, I wrote this one down, and the thing is that there are some cards that I use fairly often.
Mm-hmm.
There are some cards I never use. And I had to keep telling myself, this isn't that. This isn't cards you never use. It's cards you used to use and you don't use very often now. It was kind of tough to pick sometimes because I was like, well, you know, this like number five here when we get to this is one I've used recently, but I used to use her a lot back in the day, and that is Debris. Now, I can say she had a little bit of a resurgence when we were trying to deal with freaking Galactus all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had her a lot in my decks, but most of the time when we started out, as soon as I got Debris, I loved her because I was using her mostly in like Viper decks to send those rocks over. So to kind of give everybody an idea, you know, you use Debris, and when you lay Debris out, she generates a rock. Yes, she does. There's a rock that is placed at every other location other than the one that she's at. So she'll lay a rock out, and then what I like to do is I would use Viper to send the rock over and take up another space at my opponents.
There you go.
So I entertain the idea of using her with Hazmat because that's a -1 on each of the locations. And if you got Luke Cage, you get of course Luke Cage and Hazmat. You know, the tag team duo that's been in all the comics.
Yeah, Iron Fist who.
Iron Fist who. But yeah. So I want to go ahead and say Debris will be my number five. I was a lot more confident and easily able to pick out my top three. But these bottom two were kind of tough for me. So anyway, number five for me, Debris.
I didn't use Debris a lot at first, and then especially with Galactus, and then pairing her with Patriot, I like to do that too. I may not use her quite as much as I did, but at first I didn't use her at all. So
right.
But I also have a Dan Hip variant, so so that makes it better use. This is one that I have used a little bit lately, but I definitely don't use her nearly as much as I used to. She used to be the Kingpin's right-hand woman, just like in the comics.
Pause on that because that is on my list.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and we'll skip to your number four.
My number four, and it's not because I don't love him as much as I used to, or that Venomized variant that I can't remember if I bought that one or just won it, but I don't use Lockjaw like I used to.
Lockjaw.
I mean, I used to when I got Lockjaw. I wanted to try all that stuff out, and I know I had one particular deck that I even labeled "He Hate Me" because it made you so mad when we played it. Because it occurred to me that Lockjaw decks and Destroy decks have a lot in common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I don't know. I just the randomness scares me off. Plus, there were one too many times that I had Giganto in that deck and then went ahead and put Lockjaw on the left location anyway. So I love Lockjaw. I love that Lockjaw is in the comics. I love that there's a giant dog that can teleport anywhere, and Canis Ex Machina our heroes out of just about any situation. And I love what the card does, which I guess I should say. When you play a card on there, it switches it out with another card in your deck. It used to do it for any cards you put on there, but now it's only the first one, right?
Yeah. And I think that is a big drawback to people who used to have Lockjaw in their decks. He's still pretty useful.
Yeah.
But man, if you could lay out 3 1-cost cards, if you were lucky enough to have Iceman, Yondu, something low cost, you're able to lay those out there and teleport them in for some big daddies after hitting the person with some effects. That was pretty powerful. And then they came in and they were like, we're seeing too much of this. They knocked it back to where he's only able to teleport one person out of there at a time. Now, Lockjaw for me, I have won games with Lockjaw, but it's super frustrating when I lose games with Lockjaw because
he's just it's too easy for it to go wrong, and I have enough trouble making my plans work out. So
yeah. I've been there. I mean, I've got Lockjaw sitting on this one location, and I've got the only spot that's open is the one on Lockjaw, and I've got a 12 power Magneto sitting there, which would win me the location. But if I lay him down there, he's going away.
Yeah.
He's going to go away, and I don't know what I'm going to get. So yeah,
I want to try Lockjaw again soon, but I just, as I was thinking about this, I'm like, I still love Lockjaw, but he just doesn't work in a lot of my strategies right now.
I hear you.
Or whatever passes or the actions I take that I laughingly call strategy.
Got you. Well, my number 4 is a card I used to use a lot, and I remember using this not in the deck that you would think it would be in. But now it's like this card is never seen without a destroy deck, and that's Nova. So I used to play Nova a lot. Normally it was a Killmonger situation. So Nova's out there, and I would lay out Killmonger in order to boost everybody I had up on either turn 5 or turn 6 by 1. And I just don't have that. So I guess Killmonger could possibly be on this list too, because I don't play Killmonger hardly ever either. But I remember when I first got Killmonger, oh my goodness, like I could not wait to put Killmonger in my deck and just destroy all those 1-cost cards and potentially boost up all mine too.
I used Nova a lot, even outside of destroy decks. But I think, didn't he used to be a 2-power?
I can't remember.
When the game first started, I think he was a 2-power. So as a 1/1, if the effect doesn't work, there's not a lot of appeal otherwise.
Right.
I think it was almost like, I seem to remember Nova being almost like an insurance policy, like, hey, it's a decent card, and if he dies, that works for you. And then you're like, oh wait, I can destroy my own cards, so played him a lot with Carnage. I still use him because I do when nothing else is working, I break out the destroy deck again. Yeah, maybe not as much as I used to, but he's hardly gone from my my playing. I guess I called it don't use as much as I used to, but it's almost, cards that I used to use a lot that I rarely use now.
Right. So yeah, let's talk about my number 3 and your number 5.
Yes.
Which was Arrow. And yeah, Arrow, when I was putting decks together, man, Arrow was a beast. And I think this is almost going to be one of those things where, when we talk about these cards, we're also going to have to talk about the nerfs that happened to them.
Yeah.
Because Arrow was one that moved every card to the location that you put her down in that was played on the other side. So, that really, really threw a wrench into people's plans.
Yeah. Especially if you were using Kingpin and your opponent wasn't dumb enough to forget what Kingpin does.
Exactly.
Or forget what Fisk Tower does.
That happens. Happened live right here. Uber powerful. She was fun to use and move to move those cards that the person laid down. Now, the way that it's written, I believe it's the highest. Is it the highest power card or the last or the first play card? I can't remember.
Had it open. Yes, it's one of those. Which is still useful, but also, there are other cards. That's the other thing, is not just the nerfs, but the advent of other cards. There are other ways to move cards now.
Right. That's true.
I mean, there are other cards and other ways to move folks. And now that it's not every card, you can get a better idea if you're using Magneto or Polaris with her, just like in the comics, with Kingpin, just like in the comics. Whenever I use a Magneto and Kingpin deck, it usually ends up with some sort of Acts of Vengeance theme. But you have a better idea of what's going to move. Whereas with Arrow, I mean, it was always kind of a guess. But let's see, Arrow, move the last enemy card played to this location.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, still useful, still disruptive, but doesn't really stand out from other cards
right.
that can do something similar.
Right. All right. So that was my number 3. What was your number 3?
My number 3 was someone that was in just about every destroy deck or deck with a possibility for at least one card being destroyed. I used to use the combo of Carnage and Mr. Sinister all the time. Well, Mr. Sinister,
really?
Then Carnage. And I still use Carnage and Mr. Sinister, just not usually together. At that point, it was just all about quantity, whereas now there are better quality cards for Carnage to take out. But when I did that, I was always hoping that I would have this card in my deck, but not in my hand, and that's Angel.
Angel, yeah.
I loved Angel swooping in there, and when you destroyed a card, maybe it was Nova, so you got everybody boosted up, and then Angel comes in, but that's only cool when he's not in your hand. And I know I've said on here many times, hey, a 1-cost 2-power card isn't bad. If it's Echo or M'Baku, if you don't get their effect to work, then it's still a decent card. But for some reason, I never felt that way about Angel. The numbers are the same, but if Angel doesn't swoop in, I'm just like, what are you doing here, Warren? You were supposed to wait. Come on. Nobody wants to hang out with you. We don't want to hear about your rich guy problems. We don't want to hear about, it sucks that I have wings. Just swoop in when we need you. That's so right. Yeah, I mean, I Angel, and I love the classic Angel look on his main card with the Halo emblem. That's a good throwback, champions type thing. But I don't know. And there are so many other 1-cost cards that work well in destroy decks now. I mean, usually I don't put more than 3 1-cost cards in a deck. If it's a destroy deck, am I going to leave out Nova? No. Am I going to leave out Deadpool? No.
Right.
And then if it's any deck, am I going to leave out Sunspot? Probably not. So
right.
Just no room at the end for the Angel.
That's unfortunate. For a while, I think I was winning quite a few because, he stayed back a good bit. And then when Bucky becomes the Winter Soldier and here comes Angel to tag, to ride along with him. Oh man, it's a good feeling. But yeah, I haven't played a destruction deck in quite a while. So, I mean, if this was a top 10, I think Angel would probably be in my top 10 for sure. Okay. Number 2, and that is going to be the leader.
Hey, guess what my number 2 is?
Is it the leader?
It is the leader.
Oh, wow. I'll give you my short spiel, and that's mainly because the nerfs. I mean, when the nerfs hit, leader used to be able to copy all of the cards that were played, everything that was played over on to your side, and that was a massive shift. I say massive. I mean, essentially, it's a 6-cost card, and initially it was 7 power, wasn't it? Like a 7?
No, I think it was 3, and then they lowered his ability and boosted up his power.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I'm getting that backwards then. So yeah, but I mean, essentially, if you're playing everything that the other person is playing along with this card, you're getting everything that they have, provided there isn't some kind of crazy effect, +2 or whatever it was.
If you're winning turn 5 and you play leader, chances are you win the game.
Yeah, right. So, of course, the meta game is really influenced by this card. They were like, okay, I mean, people laying out Thanos were running into problems. These people who had all these big decks, they weren't able to keep up with the leaders. So, just like you said, they nerfed him once.
And when they made him a 6/7, then wasn't it that he would just copy like what was on the lane where he was played?
It was like everything to the right.
Oh, to the location on the right. Yeah.
Yep.
So that limited it. So they boosted up his power, and then they changed it so where he would copy the enemy card or cards. That's what he is now with the highest power on your side, and dropped him back down to a 2. So he's closer to what he was.
He's definitely closer to what he was, but he definitely wasn't nerfed off the earth like he was the first time.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're going to play a 6/7, I'll just take Onslaught. But what bugged me was not that they adjusted it, because I mean that was a really good ability, and I mean I figured out without even having anybody tell me on the internet. I'm like, well, all I have to do is win through 5 turns, and I play leader, and I'm gold.
Right.
Leader can count. I mean, unless you're full on that location or something, leader can counteract anything they throw at you. Yeah. And I mean, I probably figured that out a month after everybody else playing the game did. But it made me feel good about me. So yeah, it was just kind of irritating because I still think there are cards that are more disruptive than the original leader.
Yeah.
Some of them rhyme with Pi Revolutionary. And at least the leader, you had to actually play him for him to completely disrupt the game.
Okay, guys, I can't help myself. So, reached out to ChatGPT. Just editing this conversation between me and Evan strikes me with inspiration. So I let ChatGPT do all the heavy lifting. But are you ready for this? So I asked ChatGPT, write a small, humorous one-page comic that advertises Hostess fruit pies using the Marvel characters Spider-Ham and a parody of the High Evolutionary character called Pie Evolutionary. Try and keep the concept as close to the Marvel versions as you can, but again, with a humorous twist. Here is ChatGPT's idea. A one-page comic titled Pie Evolutionary's Sweet Experiment. Panel 1. Scene. A laboratory atop a mountain. Spider-Ham dressed in his classic Spider-Man suit, but with ham-like features. Wait. I think that I don't know if ChatGPT knows much about Spider-Ham. Here we go. Spider-Man suit, but with ham-like features, swings in through an open window. Inside, a comically exaggerated pie evolutionary stands amidst bubbling beakers and scientific equipment. Narrator, in a box at the top. Meanwhile, at the summit of Confectionery Mountain, Pie Evolutionary, rubbing his chin. Ah, Spider-Ham, just in time to witness my delectable breakthrough. Panel 2. Close-up of Pie Evolutionary, a hammy twist on the High Evolutionary, sporting a chef's hat. Pie Evolutionary. I've embarked upon the most glorious endeavor, involving pies into the next stage of deliciousness. Spider-Ham cocking an eyebrow. Evolving pies? Is that even possible? Panel 3. Wide shot of the laboratory showing various pies in different stages of transformation with wild toppings and sprinkles. The Pie Evolutionary. Behold, the Apple Twistatron, the Cherry Fusion-O-Matic, and the Blueberry Blaster. Spider-Ham, grinning. You've really cooked up something here. Panel 4. Close-up of Pie Evolutionary adjusting his glasses with a flourish. Pie Evolutionary. Indeed, Spider-Ham, with each bite these pies will grant unimaginable satisfaction, transforming humdrum snacking into a taste bud revolution. Panel 5. Spider-Ham leans in to grab a pie, a playful smirk on his face. Spider-Ham. So you're saying these pies are the next step in pie-evolution? Pie Evolutionary. Chuckling. Exactly, my porky protagonist. Try one and become part of the pie-evolution. Panel 6. Spider-Ham takes a bite of a pie. A cascade of colorful confetti and taste explosions surround him. Spider-Ham with his mouth full. This is amazing. Oh, Pie Evolutionary gleefully. Success! The narrator in a box at the bottom. And so Spider-Ham joins Pie Evolutionary in spreading the joys of Pie-evolution to snackers everywhere. Bottom of the page features a playful tagline. Hostess fruit pies, Pie-evolutionize your snacking. Oh my gosh. Whew. And now, back to your regularly scheduled program.
Oh, that's great.
And I guess you can still strategize with him, but he's not the game changer that he was. And there are so many game changers out there that I still don't see what the big deal is.
Yeah. The deck that I remember having originally essentially was like, okay, try to make sure you have enough space. So when leader does his thing, he can do his thing. So I would Hulkbuster, I would Venom. I'd have Venom. I also had Captain Marvel in there.
Okay.
And then when leader got played, there you go. I remember Green Goblin for sure. When leader got played, then at that point it gets put over onto my side, and then essentially Captain Marvel won me game after game because she fixed everything. She flew, and if I'm missing a spot or if I've clearly got a location locked down, she can leave and go to another one. So she helped a ton. I've never had the desire to go back and try and put him in something and make it work again. You were going to say something. I cut you off. Go ahead.
That's okay. I also just like the fact that it's old school leader. Reminds me of the old Hulk cartoon. Back, especially when you couldn't cycle avatars through decks. He was my avatar a lot of the time because it reminded me of that. And my title was a bit of a scientist.
Nice.
So there was the nostalgia effect, but I did, as I was thinking about this, I did sort of come up with a justification for some of the nerfs, because as disruptive as certain other cards are, like Null and Galactus, you can kind of see them coming.
It's true.
If you're paying attention. I mean, I didn't have a specific leader deck. I just had, that was early on, or still learning the strategy and stuff. I just had a deck, and I'm like, well, who's my 6 power card? Leader. Because if I'm winning, leader locks it down for me.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, there wasn't leader just came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And so Galactus is a pain in the butt. Null is a pain in the butt. High Evolutionary is a pain in the butt. But you usually know when they're coming.
Right.
And leader, yes, obviously, if somebody puts thought into it like you did, they can do that. But leader, especially early on, for me, he was just the icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. He was, if I can win through 5 turns, then leader will win me the game.
Yeah.
And so you could run him with anything. Whereas Galactus, Null, even Arnim Zola, the Arnim Zola Black Panther, who hasn't wanted to see a relentless Nazi geneticist team up with the paragon of African royalty and heroism. Sometimes you can't stop them, but you got a chance. You can see them coming. And leader, there's no warning sign for him.
Yeah, right.
So maybe that makes it okay. Yeah, gonna have to try him out again.
Yeah, just to find something.
Him and Lockjaw. Drop leader on Lockjaw, you get the bonus, and then you get your opponent's highest card and something else. So maybe I'll have to throw all these guys in a deck and see what happens.
Right.
But we haven't gotten to our number ones yet.
No, we have not. So I will go first. So my number one, I don't think it's going to be the same as your number one. My number one card that I do not use as much as I used to, and that's Quake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's emotionally upsetting.
It's like when Ross and Rachel broke up.
It seriously is. Yeah.
Jesse, your lobster.
I know it. Look, you guys, I don't know how many times I've talked about using Quake and shaking things up. And I was a mark for putting Quake in. If I can find a spot to put her in there, I'm going to try and put her in there. And just the chaos that it could render in a game was just fun to watch. So I blame you, Evan, because what had happened is, I'm blaming you. What had happened is that you had said, hey, I'm doing pretty good with this Silver Surfer Brood Wong deck. And I was like, oh, okay. So
sorry, I hope you win.
Quake kind of fell to the wayside, and I was like, I'm going to try this. And then I started, what ended up happening at that point, really, it could probably come down to, oh boy, this is not going to sound good, but really it can come down to Wong. It's going to come down to Wong here, because what ended up happening is Quake kind of took a backseat to me using Wong to either power up cards or destroy cards. The Luke Cage Hazmat combo was happening. Invisible Woman was happening. And I haven't had Quake in one of my decks for a very, very long time, because I've been using those mechanics so much more. And then here comes Legion. And Legion has now it's kind of like takes Quake for me and puts it to a whole different level. And as much fun as I used to have with Quake, now I'm having fun with Legion. And she's unfortunately she's been sitting there. And I don't love to sit down and, like, if the devs at Snap had statistics on who's upgraded cards the most. I mean, I have tried to ink split Quake, and I've got a great, I think it's Alex Maleev Quake variant that is just fantastic, and I would love to see it ink split. But I played her all the time, and I boosted her up all the time, and she has kind of been just sitting by the wayside, waiting for me to get tired of Legion, which unfortunately is not going to happen unless they do some kind of stupid nerf then. But there you go, man. My number one, Quake.
Jesse, if I had the time and the patience and the Photoshop skills, I would Photoshop you and Quake walking down the street and you looking back with your jaw dropping at Legion.
As Legion walks forward.
Yep.
Yes. Oh man. It's great. And what a meme. What a meme.
Oh man. My number one character I was delighted to see they had in Snap. I always liked him for the chaos that he could cause, and the way that I could maybe have a shot at getting a really powerful card in before I needed it. I mean, not before I needed it, before I could have played something at that level. He drew on not only the X-Men animated series, but the Age of Apocalypse.
Morph almost made my list, man. Really
and
did.
I don't use him anymore. And I think there's a few factors. I mean, he's a 3-cost card, so that should make him a good fit in the Silver Surfer decks I love to use, except unless he copies a 3-cost card, he's not going to get that boost anymore.
Right.
And also, I think maybe as the game's grown and the metagame has grown, there's so many cards that can harm you if you're not playing a certain theme or strategy. I don't want to, copy Morph and have, Carnage White Thor off a location.
Right.
Or
right.
Something like that. So it's kind of like Lockjaw with the unpredictability. I mean, the game's always a little unpredictable with the locations, but if I'm going for a certain strategy, or even if I'm just, trying to throw in the best cards I can, I got to have an idea of how they're going to work together. And I love the ability of Morph. I think it's great. I love that, that superhero shapeshifter look they gave him in Age of Apocalypse. I love the throwback to the cartoon, but he just doesn't fit in my decks anymore.
You make a good point with the meta and how Morph can really mess your game up. And that might be why I took Morph out, because, man, the Destroy decks are just ridiculous. They are ridiculous. I've encountered so many of those. It feels like I would be hitting a Destroy deck 2 out of every 5. I don't like Destroy decks. I'm not playing a Destroy deck. There's no sense for me to put Morph in there if I'm going to run into them more often than not. Mm-hmm. So I did not have them in there for quite a while. And like I said, he almost made my list, but I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that because I've got these other few that I think are better. But he would definitely make a top 10 for me because he was fun too, man. You play him and you're like, oh yeah, I got one of your cards now. Oh, Carnage just destroyed my 5 guys. So.
Well, maybe he'd be a good one to throw into that. Give him another chance deck with Lockjaw. You'd always get him off the map if he didn't turn into something you wanted.
I wonder what would happen. Yeah, it's true. That's a good point. I mean,
he would change, and then he'd go into your deck. So, and then you could you'd have it and could decide if you want to use it later.
You'd have to play it. Would you have to play it at the cost? You probably have to play it at the cost that it actually costs.
Yeah,
too.
I think you would.
Okay.
So I don't know.
All right. Well, there it is. Our top 5 cards that we used to play, but don't so often anymore. I think it's time. It's time we get out of here. So let's talk plugs here, man. What do you got going on there? Tell me about Asterisk 51.
Asterisk51.blogspot.com. Getting close. Oh yeah, I'm going to have to put the finishing touches on Just Imagine Stan Lee and Chris Bocello creating Catwoman. And then there's only 2 Just Imagine tales left. Only one before we get to Stan Lee's Crisis. So.
Ooh, interesting.
And then Jesse, football season is coming up, and that's right. I do believe I'm only 1 issue away from completing my run of NFL Super Pro.
Really now?
So I think I'm going to have to. I think this football season, once I wrap up Just Imagine, I think we're going to kick off a little NFL Super Pro coverage.
That is fantastic. That is going to be some fun reads right there. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to air most likely the week of the 13th through the 19th. So let me tell you about what is on the schedule. Monday, the 14th, you can hear me and Matthew Price of Speeding Bullet Comics, and of course Dean Compton of The Unspoken Decade, tell you all about the time Captain America turned into a werewolf.
Oh, yes.
Cap Wolf, baby. Wow. What a time to be alive. It was a lot of fun to discuss that. It was a series I hadn't read. Evan, I know you read yourself some Cap Wolf before.
Well, only recently.
Oh,
it was
okay.
one that I kicked myself for not getting as a kid. It always kind of captured my imagination, because why on earth would Captain America be a werewolf? So eventually I found it at a show. I found the trade, bought it, but I didn't read it. It's something that I had talked about for years, wanting to read, and I didn't. And it occurred to me the reason I didn't read it was because, I couldn't imagine what would a story about Captain America as a werewolf be. And once I read it, that's what it would be. All those possibilities would be gone. So one of my first ongoing things with my blog, as opposed to just random stuff that floated through my head, right alongside Free Willy Fridays, was a series called Schrodinger's Cap Wolf.
Oh, yes.
So went through all. Not only did I go through all 6, but I was delighted to find it actually stretched into a 7th issue that was also an Infinity War crossover.
That's right. That makes the cut there. We talk about that as well.
So, if you wanna check that out, I will look forward to listening to you guys discuss it. And then if you want to check out me, finally for the first time after all those years reading Cap Wolf, you can go over to asterisk51.blogspot.com and check that out. And I even found there was a little bit of crossover with Secret Defenders, my other long-term reading project.
Oh,
because, yeah, the final story arc of Secret Defenders takes place in the same mysterious New England town that
Starksboro.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. All right. Check out Cap Wolf, both renditions being covered by myself and the one by Evan Bevins. And you can go back in the archives, too, and check out Avengers Defenders Tarot, the 2020 story written by Alan Davis. That's right, the Alan Davis of Excalibur fame, with a nice little crossover between the Avengers and the Defenders, and it's great. It's zany, it's wacky, it's fun. Me and Mark had a chance to talk about that as well. So, for Evan Bevins, sitting right over there, I am Jesse Starcher. We will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us on the Snap Material. Have a good one. Bye-bye.